Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. It is Monday, June the 16th. Thank you for joining me. Well, let's get into the forecast. High pressure is moving into the country at the moment. It's a little hard to see here on the water vapour map, which tends to show where rainfall is, and that's usually in the brighter, whiter clouds. So further to the northeast of the country, and we've got a small area of low pressure out here to the west. Still a few thunderstorms associated with that. I said the other day in the headline that we've got high pressure with a puncture. That's the puncture part of it. That's the reason why we saw that wet weather lingering around Auckland in particular on Sunday. Cold, wet, easterly blowing through there. That is now moving away, sort of separating away from the top of the North Island. So to make more sense of that, here is the high pressure map. I didn't put an L here because it's technically not really a proper low, but we do see a small amount of low pressure just off the coast of the North Island. That's a proper low to the northeast and out here well east of the Chatham Islands. High pressure connecting us up with Australia. More high pressure on the way, so we've got some drier weather in the forecast, but we're still seeing another cold blast coming in to Tasmania and Victoria, and that is going to come over towards New Zealand more as a windy westerly. But the colder airflow that we've got at the moment, that is lingering around the country, and so frosty weather still around overnight tonight. Frosts right through the South Island's interior and around Central Plateau, even extending further down and towards Wanganui. And then as we go through into Wednesday morning, still frosty around the central part of the North Island, some parts of South Waikato, but the frosty weather in the South Island shrinks just a little bit, and that's because north to northwesterly winds are going to be building up. So let's explain all of that. Here we are at noon on Tuesday. The blue line, south of that blue line, that is polar airflows. And so that's why we've got colder weather lingering from the eastern North Island right down over the South Island. The high pressure system just locks in that cold weather. Still got a southeasterly for the top of the North Island. That brings in a few showers, northern Hawke's Bay up towards Gisborne, East Cape, and further around the Bay of Islands. Otherwise, most places are dry as we go through Tuesday. There may also just be a couple of showers that come down into the South Island, likely to be pretty light, drizzly sort of stuff as a result of that easterly curving around as a nor'easter just down the coastline there past Marlborough and into North Canterbury. But like I say, probably won't add up to very much. Noon Wednesday, so the blue line, I haven't highlighted all of it, but this is the main part around New Zealand. So as the high is smack bang over the top of us, colder weather lingers along the eastern side and into the North Island. But you can see that northerly I was telling you about on the back end of the high. So that's the reason why the frosty weather for inland and southern parts of the South Island on Wednesday aren't as great, because there's just a slightly milder airflow. And showers, just a couple remaining in the northeast corner of the North Island. One or two of those might come into Coromandel Peninsula, Western Bay of Plenty, Great Barrier Island. Otherwise, dry. So by Thursday, frosty weather not so likely around the South Island. In fact, snow flurries on the tops of the mountains as this cold front comes in. It brings in rain on the west coast, showers or patchy kind of rain for the western side of the North Island as we go through the day. And of course, ahead of that, we've got the windy nor'westers, which will be changing to cooler or colder sou'westers behind that weak cold front. So we do see windier weather around the nation. The top half of the North Island will be the calmest and the mildest and likely the sunniest, although clouds will build up as the day goes on as that front moves on in. So by Friday, it is classic kind of weather for this time of the year as we kick off the long weekend. Southerly winds blowing around. Now look, for those of you that want to go stargazing, it's a little hit and miss. Better chances going into the weekend than there are actually on the Thursday, Friday going into it. So we've got a few showers along the western side of New Zealand, driest, sunniest weather on the eastern side. Southerlies coming into Wellington, Waited Upper, around that Cook Strait area. They might start to turn a bit more westerly. It's usually either a southerly or a westerly. You don't get southwesterlies through that area thanks to the Southern Alps. And wintry weather in Southland and Otago. What's new after the last week, right? It's been a pretty cold week. Doesn't change as we go into Friday of next week. Still southerly driven airflows. Temperatures are still down around the South Island for about a week ahead. So kind of classic weather for this time of the year. So as we go into the long weekend properly, well, the middle part of it, I should say, the blue line still over most of the South Island and the lower part of the North Island. Most showers, though, are clearing away. Maybe a couple remaining in the western side, but most of that shower activity is down around Southland, Fiordland, Southwestland, and maybe parts of Otago. Otago's a little more borderline. Canterbury northwards, it does look dry or mainly dry. And as we get to Sunday, there is the big high pressure system right over the top of the country. A great weekend to get out on the boat, go into the mountains, whatever you want to do, or just stay at home. But the cold lingers just a little bit longer into the eastern North Island. It's a good example of how the North Island's a lot further east than the South Island is. So the cold change clears away from the South Island on Sunday, westerly winds returning in the south there, but lingers longer around the eastern side of the North Island. And look at this, more changeable weather coming in all behind of it. So the expected rainfall, let's just kick off with the next couple of days. This really highlights how dry it is with the high pressure system coming in. Most of the wet weather north of Mahia Peninsula right up to East Cape. So Gisborne smack bang in that sort of 20 millimetre mark over the next couple of days. Most other areas are dry, but we do see from South Westland to Fiordland a little bit of wet weather. But I say a little bit, it's only about 5 millimetres, so not much coming through. The week forecast, again, doesn't show much rainfall. The pink on the map, bottom of the scale, so is the purple on this map. So those are the lower rainfall totals. So you see most of it over here in the southwest corner of the South Island, and a little bit around Taranaki as well. The sort of that front that sweeps up does drive in a bit of wet weather, but it's not a huge amount. All right, before I go, a bit of self-promotion. I didn't want to, but Sean, my business partner, said I had to. So just a huge thank you to Ravensdown and to the Guild for, and also for the people that nominated me. It was completely unexpected, and it's just a huge honour for me. So thank you very much to everyone involved. That is all from me for today. I'll see you again tomorrow with our next